Why it's free? Oh, weird.
No, no.
She's confused. I'm not gonna shave my head. It's not my thing. Some people do that. Shave their head. Yeah, I shouldn't. That sounds like a very bad idea. I used to have one. No. Back in those times, everyone had one. It was a cool. All right, now they call it what? Hockey hair?
Yeah. I don't play hockey.
I did.
Yeah.
That's a little different. That's not just a mullet. That's like a.
It's long.
It's long everywhere. Yeah. All right. Yesterday we looked at the difference between an experiment and an observational study. We looked at kind of how to decide what type of a data gathering technique we should use. Today we're going to talk more about that, but we did some questions for today. Anybody have any questions over those? Anybody get sick? Everyone's like, I didn't know I'd have to read in math. Anybody thinking that?
Oh, I don't read it.
You should. You're gonna read. Are you gonna read the questions tomorrow?
Well, yeah, of course I'm a quiz. I know how to read.
I know you know how to read. All right. So this after this section, we'll get into chapter 9 and we'll have a little more work with numbers. I know some people are like, somebody asked yesterday, why are we doing this? This isn't math. Well, it is. Statistics is a part of math. Okay. But we'll get into some more straight mathematical concepts in chapter 9, which we'll be headed to in a little bit here. So I'm hearing no questions. So we're going to talk a little bit, take things a little bit further here. Got a maybe a rather quick lesson talking about these things. Then when we're done, I'm going to ask if you have any questions over sections 1 through 3 that you want to answer. Section 1 was where we learned about mean, median, and mode, variance, standard deviation, box and whisker plots. We had that worksheet we went over yesterday. Variance, standard deviation, I mentioned those. And then section 2 was about data gathering surveys. Okay. Looking for bias in a survey method. Right. So if you have any questions, you'll have a chance to get those answered later. Let's see if this is going to work here today. I suppose I got to turn it on. All right. Now, today we're going to look at, we talked about designing, or today we're going to talk about designing an experiment or an observational study. So we're going to look at a research topic and try to figure out, would it be best served using an experiment or an observational study? And then how would you maybe set up that experiment or observational study? All right, so this says explain whether the research topic is best addressed through an experiment. Remember, an experiment, we said we're going to apply a treatment. So we're going to have a treatment group and a control group and try to show that the treatment group, whatever treatment we provided, made things better. Okay. Observational study, we're going to maybe either observe or look at data that has been compiled on a topic and then try to figure out, what effect things have on there. So we want to make sure we know the difference between those two. All right. Does using tanning beds at least twice a month affect the likelihood of developing skin disease? So what type of a research would we want to do for that, addressing that issue? Does using tanning beds at least twice a month affect the likelihood of developing skin disease? Would we want to do an experiment or a study? Why?
You don't want to risk people getting cancer.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to, if you think it's something that's going to cause somebody to have a skin disease, you wouldn't want to say, all right, you guys go to the tanning bed all the time and, possibly do damage to your body, and you people do not. I mean, you wouldn't do an experiment here. That would be a bad idea. So how would you do a study then? If you chose a study over an experiment, how would you, it says explain how you would set up the observational study. What would you do?
Observe people who already go to tanning beds.
Yeah, maybe have some people that regularly go to tanning beds. Maybe ask them to do some testing, right? I mean, Or maybe you could look at people that have had skin disease and look in their background, did they use tanning beds, right? Either thing. Okay, and you could tie that together there. So yes, it definitely would not be something you'd want to do an experiment with. Here's what they're saying. The treatment may affect someone's health, so it's not ethical to assign individuals to a treatment group. We basically talked about that. Perform an observational study, randomly choose one group of people who already use tanning beds. This is what Kenzie was talking about. At least twice a month, and another group which does not, and see down the road what happens, right? Okay, this is exactly what Kenzie was getting at. Right, so make sure if you're applying a treatment, there's no harm. You don't want to provide harm to anyone. Okay. And it's almost prom season. People are going to be tanning, right?
Yeah,
Oh, trust me, they will be. Correct?
yeah.
I know. I thought you were being sarcastic, but it'll happen. All right. All right, here's another one. We have to decide whether we should do a experiment or a study, and then if we do, we'll have to figure out, how would we set up our experiment or study? Do people who consume 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C each day as a dietary supplement have lower cholesterol levels than people who do not consume vitamin C supplements? Okay, so would this be best served with an experiment or a observational study? What do you think? Or what would we have to know before we decided?
Whether they have any health conditions that could scare the results.
Okay, whether they, yeah, I don't know that that's exactly what I was thinking they needed to, what we need to know. Would we have to know is taking that vitamin C, could that hurt or harm you? Do you think taking vitamin C is going to harm you? No, generally you think vitamin C is a good thing. So, and I think that's true. So I think since there's not going to, we can conclude that it's not going to harm anybody to take vitamin C, because vitamin C is something that's generally good for you, but we'd have to make sure that amount wasn't going to be harmful. We'd have to know that, and that would sway us towards doing what? Experiment or study. Vitamin C isn't going to harm you. We could do a what? Experiment. So how would we set up an experiment for this research topic? Should be pretty easy. What would we do? Have some people that are going to take the supplement, have another group the same size that are not. And maybe after a certain amount of time, you could test their cholesterol. You'd probably test their cholesterol to begin with too, right? And then you'd have to, and if I was in the vitamin C group, I would make sure my cholesterol went up no, I'm not kidding. That wouldn't be healthy. How could you make sure your cholesterol went up? Eat poorly for an amount of time? I wouldn't do that. Not at my age. I'm old, right? Gray hair? Highlights? So it says 1,000 milligrams of a vitamin is not known to have any negative effects. So if it did, we wouldn't want to do an experiment. We'd want to do a study. Randomly choose one group, as Cassie said, of people to take supplements. Randomly choose another group that does not, and compare their cholesterol levels, after some specified amount of time. Right? You'd probably ask those people to, live normally for a month, or it's going to be 2 months. You wouldn't want to tell them anything. Just all right, here you go. Okay. So deciding how to design, if you want to make sure you don't provide any harm. So if the treatment that you'd have to use could do harm, you can't do that treatment. You'd have to do something different. Okay. Questions on kind of deciding how to do each one. I think if you read through, you should be able to figure out which method would be best. All right. Now, last thing we're going to do is classify or kind of look at some plans here. We have 3 plans on how to address something or to research some topic. And we want to classify one. One of them should be a survey. One of them should look like an experiment. One should look like an observational study. All right, so let's look at this one here together. Then I think I'll have you look at one. Method A, choose 50 people who have at least 1 serving of soy a day and 50 who don't, and check their cholesterol levels. Method B, randomly choose 100 people, ask how many servings of soy they have a week, and ask if their cholesterol levels are high. Method C, randomly choose 50 people to eat at least one serving of soy a day and 50 people not to, and monitor their cholesterol levels. All right, so what do you think method A is? Survey, observation, or experiment?
Observation.
Observation. Why? What makes it an observation, Corey? You're correct.
Because they're just checking their levels. They're not doing anything to them. They
Yeah,
just
you're not providing a treatment, right? You're not providing a treatment. These people would have to acknowledge that they have at least one serving of soy a day. And okay, so you're still going to compare two groups, but you're not providing a treatment. Okay, you're basically looking at people that already are there. You're not changing their environment at all. So that is correct. All right, method B. What do you think that is? Survey. You're asking, right? People are going to fill out a survey. They're going to, tell you whatever they want to tell you, right? Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. Okay. Would you guess most people, if they're doing the survey, a lot of people are going to say their cholesterol is not high, even if it might be. So maybe you're not going to get all the best information here. Okay. Because having high cholesterol maybe has a stigma to it. That means method C has to be a what? Experiment. What makes it an experiment? It is an experiment, but what makes it an experiment? The treatment. You have a treatment group, control group, and then you're going to compare down the line. Okay? Then you're going to compare down the line. And that's exactly what we decided, right? Method A was an observational study, B was a survey, C was an experiment. All right. Why don't you take a few minutes, and this one's in the text also if this is too small. It's example 4, it's on page 562. So if you can't read that, you can look in the text. But classify each of those as a experiment or observational study. And then we'll discuss which one we think is the most reliable. We didn't do that on the last one. I probably should have. Okay, so read through that, see what you think. All right, if you're having trouble with figuring out which one would be the most reliable, we can talk about that at the end. And we'll make some assumptions here. All right, has everybody had enough time to think about which is which there? Okay, so let's look at this. Method A, randomly choose 5 people to exercise 3 hours a week and 50 people to participate in another activity and monitor their health. Method A, what is that? Experiment. What's the treatment? Have them exercise, right? Have them do 3 hours of exercise a week, okay? All right, method B, randomly choose 100 people, ask, keyword there, ask how many hours a week they exercise. They might lie, right? And how healthy they are. Doesn't everybody think they're healthy? Yeah. Right? Maybe not, but you know what I mean? People, would that probably be the best or the worst of those 3? Yeah, it probably would, because people sometimes, I don't want to say, sometimes people lie to themselves, right? They aren't honest and upfront about it, okay? We all are guilty of that, right? Oh, I did everything I could do to get an A on that science project. Did you really? You know what I mean? Did you really? Did you go in and get help? You know what I'm getting at? So think about that sometimes. All right. And I said science, not math, okay? All right, choose 50 people who exercise regularly and 50 who do not and monitor their health. That's obviously an observational study. Now, which of those three do you think would be the best? I heard method C. What did you say?
Observation.
Observation. I think method A would be the best, wouldn't it? How many people say method A? No, everyone's going to say it because I said it. Okay.
We could do some the 50% participants do another activity rather than just not exercise.
You're just going to say whatever, they just live life normal, okay?
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. It would basically just they live life normal or they're not going to exercise, they're going to go play cards or something. That's exercise, right? No, it's not really, but all right.
I just feel like the method for method C, I agree with method C. That people are already doing it anyway, you wouldn't have to like coax anybody into doing it.
I know, but what I would say the issue with that, and that's a good point to bring up, but 50 people who exercise regularly, wouldn't we have to clearly define that? What does it mean if you exercise regularly? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Once again, could people lie? I don't want to say lie to themselves, but could people say, "Oh yeah, I exercise regularly," and maybe they don't really do that? Okay. Here, I think when all things, if it's possible to experiment, that's generally going to be the best way to do things. So I think method A is the way to go. All right. Let's see what they give as their explanation. So sometimes we got to read into these a little bit more, and we're not reading into this, but let's look at the explanations here. Now we had all those correct: experiment, survey, observational study. Method B is the least reliable. We agreed with that, right? Because people are going to say what they want to say. Method C has a comparison group, but the members are self-selected. Self-selected means I'm going to say I exercise regularly. What defines exercising regularly, right? If you specifically defined it, that would be better, okay? But self-selected means, yeah, I fall into that group. When do I really? Right? You don't think I exercise regularly?
No, I don't.
You don't, or I do? I don't. I do. You see me walking all the time, don't you? Oh, that's because you don't go out of your house. Okay, you don't exercise regularly. You're not healthy, boy. Okay. So anyway, in method A, the members of each group are randomly selected, so method A would be the best. Okay. The way you select things is also going to be important. Okay. When they say self-selected, that's people kind of volunteering to be in that group. Is that a good thing? No, because that could create bias, right? Because that could create bias. All right. So once again, sometimes you got to think a little bit more than maybe you think at first glance. Okay. All right. That's all I have in section 3. I'm going to give you some questions to look at for tomorrow. And we can cover some of this at the beginning of the class if you'd like to, if you have questions. Now, does anybody have any questions over sections 1, 2, or 3? Or section 3 we just talked about, but did we cover enough of section 1 in that worksheet? Reviewing that? Or do you have other concerns? If you do, now's the time to go over that.
Could you just go over maybe the box and whisker plot?
Yes, I can.
First quartile, third quartile.